Welcome. This is Africa's Vision Network. I am Goimwala Anukomako Podo, your host. Can Africa survive without you? Can you survive without Africa? Today's discussion is focused on the importance of Kwanzaa celebration. With me in the studio to discuss these important celebrations are Ms. Gloria Fleming and Shelley Harris, all of Virginia Kwanzaa Committee, here located in Alexandria. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about Kwanzaa, but before we actually get into detail of that, we want to take you through the history of Kwanzaa, what brought about that celebration. With this, I'll ask Shelley to give us a brief discussion of what Kwanzaa means and what is the background of it.
Okay, Kwanzaa was developed by Dr. Malana Karenga, and he developed this holiday because he felt that there needed to be an important African American celebration that was specifically for African Americans, that they could build their culture, uplift their community, redirect and recommit and reunite, so that they could do the things and project the things that they needed to be a strong civilization like they started from their ancient ancestors that were in Africa.
I see. How long has Kwanzaa been in existence?
He developed this in 1966, and so we are now celebrating the 30th year of Kwanzaa participation in this country, and also African people from the diaspora practice Kwanzaa all over the world, and it has become an international holiday.
I see. When you mention international holidays, do we have Kwanzaa holidays like we have Christmas holiday where people don't go to work and they stay home to celebrate Kwanzaa? Do we have that?
No, they don't stay home. What they do is adjust to their schedules. It starts on the 26th of December and goes through January the 1st. And of course, we know in America you can take your holidays. So some people may do that.
I see.
But it is practiced with family as the center, and you start off your day with the 7 principles. And the principles are the Nguga Saba, and they each have a value for directing black people to the commitment of rebuilding, reuniting, and recommitting themselves to the uplifting of the community.
Okay, when you talk about 7 principles, is there any way we can go through them one by one so that those who are not familiar with this concept can get some awareness of it?
Yes, we have a calendar up there that shows the 7 principles. The first principle is Umoja, and it means to strive for and maintain unity in the family, in your community, and in your nation and race. The second principle, which is celebrated on the 27th of December, is Kukajilea,
yes,
which means self-determination. And it means to define yourself, to define and create things for yourself and for your community, and to name and be the spokesperson for the things that you want to do. The next principle is celebrated on the 28th, and it's Ujima. And Ujima is collective work and responsibility. And this means to rebuild your community and to maintain our community with our sisters and brothers and solve our own problems. And the 29th is Ujima, and Ujima means collective economics. Collective economics means to maintain our own stores, shops, and our own businesses, and to profit from being able to unite together to build community-driven businesses and establishments. The next principle is Nia, and Nia is celebrated on the 29th, and Nia means purpose. This is the day that you're to look at your purpose for being here and for the building and development of the community. And in order to restore our people to its greatness, what are the things that need to be done? Then you have Kumumba, and that's creativity. And that's the day that you get together to decide what you can do in order to make your community more beautiful and beneficial for the children that will inherit it. That's also the day in the evening that you have a karamu, which is a general celebration that is a festive type of activity that people come together and have different types of libations, giving due respect to the ancestors and going on to set their agenda for the coming year. And the last day is Amani. Amani means faith, and is to believe in all our hearts that our people, our leaders, our teachers, our children will walk in righteousness and have victory over the struggle to be free.
I see. That's very interesting and too deep. Since the inception of Kwanzaa, is there any change? Can we pinpoint that there's been a change within how we were doing things before the introduction of Kwanzaa and now? What impact, in a nutshell, does Kwanzaa have on us to change our situation around?
Well, I think that there's much more information on Kwanzaa, and there are more people looking into the practice of it, and that it's not only a individual family kind of practice, but there are many community things that are going on, and many more publications, be it advertisements, books that are written, activities that are created around this. And the more information that you get, the more power you will have to make changes.
I see. I know the Kwanzaa is basically an African-American celebration, which is now becoming international or broad. But are other people also involved, allowed to celebrate Kwanzaa, or is strictly the African descent?
No, people can come and participate in Kwanzaa activities. You can invite your neighbors. You can have community kinds of activities that is open to the public. The basic thing is that it is an African base by the language, by the symbolisms that also drive the holiday, and by the objective to unite people from the diaspora that are African descent so that they can have true freedom. So anyone that wants to participate in that, they are free to do that.
So in a nutshell, it's like what the cultural exposure?
Yes, it's very cultural. Well, by the nature of the items that they have used to draw upon, for example, the first fruits. That's what Kwanzaa means first. And the symbolisms that they have points back to the ancient culture, using the symbolisms of the 7 sacred number, that you have 7 days for the practice, you have 7 basic Kwanzaa symbols, and you have the 7 candles that represent the different 7 principles. And the principles are to be used all year long. It's just the first fruit coming together to celebrate what you have committed to for the year and to reap the harvest of your fruits.
I have heard so many people complaining that Kwanzaa is being introduced within the African American community to replace Christmas. What is the reason in that?
That was not the intention, to replace anything. It was the intention for, you can celebrate Christmas. The intention is to celebrate your own culture and to do it with the basis of research and a historical background, and to highlight in your community those people that practice the culture and the history. Most of our children don't get African-based history, and this is the time of the year for them to understand where their ancestors have come from and the practices that most of the world have gained from their ancestors.
Yeah, I know the Kwanzaa has just been introduced, but it's been along for a while. The school system doing anything to promote this for the children to be aware of, or nothing of that nature has been done yet?
Well, I think it depends upon the individual school, the individual teacher. It's a non-religious, non-heroic holiday. So therefore, any teacher or system that would like to present culture as someone's culture, they can do it. And it's up to the parents to demand that this would be presented in the schools. The schools should go and highlight the cultural advantages of Kwanzaa and the language and where it comes from and the practices.
Okay. I think one of your principles stress on economic what? If you can refresh my memory.
It's called cooperative economics.
Cooperative economics. I think that's something as sometimes I hate to use the word black, but that's something we black people have lacked for a very long time. Since the introduction of this Kwanzaa, do you think this cooperative economic doctrine is taking root within our community? Well,
it's like everything else. I think that we have become a little more sophisticated with our money. In fact, I brought in an article that talks about the 400 billion amount of money and the power that we have. And it's all about knowledge is power. If you use your money in a business that will reuse its money to support what your community needs, like jobs, giving internships to your students, giving money to your different charities, then it would be smart for you to support those. And the more business that you have that are African American, the more support your community can have.
Okay, I know Kwanzaa is celebrated all over. Do you ever have any difficulty from, say, for example, somebody like me who originally came here on my free will from the continent of Africa? Do you have any difficulty with any of us saying that this is not an African celebration or whatever?
Oh no, in fact, during the celebration in the community, we're going to have one at the Alexandria YMCA, and we incorporate people that have the culture from Africa, the African dancers and drummers, because that's who we learn the culture from. And Dr. Karenga really wanted to show what was done here. As you see, some of the pictures in front are the historical people of our ancestors that came here from slavery and what they have achieved. But by no means did he want us to be limited to that our culture and history began here in this country in slavery. Our culture began in Egypt, and we have a very interesting book here about Egypt. A lot of children don't realize Egypt is in Africa, and Kemet was the first civilization, the mining civilization. So this is all very important for us to connect, and that's why we use the term diaspora now, which is a more current term, to connect all the African people in the world, because we are all over the world.
Yeah, I think I don't think it is the children's fault that they don't know that Egypt is in Africa, because the books that we read over here tells us that Egypt is from space or whatever. I don't know. Sometimes if they're talking about Africa, they will say, well, in Egypt this is done, but in Africa it's done this way. So it confuses all of us. So when we came here, personally, when I came here and I read this in school, I said, come on, wait a minute, then Africa is not complete without Egypt. So I just want to stress on that yes, Egypt is in fact Africa. And those who are not aware of it can take it from today that Africa is not complete without Egypt. And Egypt does not belong to any other place but from Africa.
And that's one of the purpose of Kwanzaa, to correct the myths, like Carter G. Woodson said, the miseducation. But it's not only the miseducation of the Negro, it's the miseducation of all people.
Exactly, exactly. That is true. That is true. If someone is looking for information on this, I know it's been around, but some of us are still sleeping. We don't understand the concept. We don't even want to listen to it, maybe because of what the picture, the type of picture that is painted. In fact, recently, I think there's a problem with Texaco Oil Company, and we're making a mockery of Kwanzaa and things of that nature. Where can we go as people, some of us who are ignorant about this, where can we go to gather information on Kwanzaa?
You can go to the Arlington County Library or either Alexandria Library, and they have two good videos there, one by Dr. Karenga, who is the founder of Kwanzaa, and then there's another good video that will give you information. And there are also several books that are located at the library. And if you want further information about the Kwanzaa celebration that we are having in Arlington and in Alexandria, in fact all over Virginia, you can contact Gloria Fleming at 703-271-0998 by telephone or either fax.
Okay, that's great. We talk about what the school system is doing or not doing, and now we are encouraging all parents to maybe send a memo to a school or,
yes, a letter. Also encourage your librarian to buy books. The Color Book Gallery has a wide source of books that they can buy that are interesting to children, geared to children, and Kwanzaa really is specifically driven by the children because they are our hope for the future. So therefore it is very important for your children to have the information at their hand. There are other bookstores that have information. Look for it. Put it in your house. Make sure that you can get a list of things from a bookstore that caters to African culture, that you can have your librarian seek this information and your children can research it in their schools.
You see, we talk about 7 days and 7 principles and 7 candles. That means Kwanzaa is celebrated over the period of 7 days. Each day of the celebration, is there like a feast whereby when you invite people come in, they have food to eat and merry-make and things of that nature? Is that what it is, or is the feast party just one day?
Well, Kwanzaa is a very personal holiday. You can celebrate it like you want to. There's some basic things that you should do. Start off with the libation to give due respect to the ancestors. Talk about the commitment for that day. For example, if we started with the first day would be Emoja, which is unity, you would start off, what is your commitment to unity? And discuss it as a family. If you do it in a large community group, then discuss what is unity. Go over the practices of how you are going to implement this through a year. Have entertainment or have a speaker to come that has shown unity and bringing the community together. And have live living examples. You can also have dancing and drumming every night, or you can just have it one night. Or you can decide to recreate, because it has kuumba, which means creativity, to create it like you need to do it. But it's very important for you to start off with the lighting of the candles in the order, going from the black to the red, then the next night lighting the green, and on down the line, back and forth. And it's very hard to get in 20 minutes, all the things that you need to do. But there are plenty of books. For example, this one's called Kwanzaa First, that can give you all the ins and outs of how to do it. And I would just like to say, when I first started Kwanzaa, I probably did everything all wrong, but you learn along your way. And it's the spirit, not the symbolism on, carry out the spirit.
Okay. You mentioned that the beginning part of it starts with libation.
Yes.
But I don't think all of us would understand what libation is. Can you briefly tell us what is libation?
Well, you first ask an elder in the group to talk and give respect to those that have been before us, and from that to pour to the winds of the east, west, north, and south onto a plant. If you're outdoors, then you pour it onto the ground to give respect to those ancestors. Then you talk about the people that have been before you and what they have done. And therefore, you are asking them to come into your presence spiritually. And this is an ancient African culture that a lot of the tribes and cultures and countries in Africa practice this, giving respect. And then everyone drinks from the cup, the unity cup. You can either pour it into people's glasses, but it all comes from one cup. And you then give the 7 harambes after you have gone through the ceremony.
Okay. Pouring libation, I think you use they use water and liquor. Can you tell us why the use of water and the liquor or juice, whatever it is? Do you know the reason why the water is normally used? And
because it's the foundations for everything to grow.
I see. Okay. Well, to add a little bit about that is that yes, pouring of libation is where we pray to God. Incidentally, the arrival of the Europeans on the coast of Africa told us that we were doing wrong things and we were not worshiping God. But in actuality, that is the format of actually worshiping the true God. The use of water and liquor in pouring libation is that water, as she says, signifies life. And the water, if you give water, you pour the water and recount the ancestral history and what they have done to give us inspiration and give thanks to God. And then you pour the water down, signifying life. The liquor in the pouring of libation signifies what as a punishment to the enemy who does not want you to progress in life. To the point that says when you pour that liquor on the ground or whatever, that's telling the ancestor that, well, that goes to the enemy to get drunk and confuse him and therefore cannot be on your way. So those are the two meanings behind it. I just want to throw that in so that the audience that you know. That the pouring of libation is not a satanic or paganism or whatever. There's nothing like that in actuality. It's just a traditional way of praying to God, the living God. I think we are running a little bit out of time over here. You have some book over there. See what is it about?
Yeah, this is a book for those that are neophytes to begin with. This is a very simple book, not uninvolved, that can be used. This book here, the Complete Kwanzaa book, is a very interesting book for more involvement and taking it to another level. So there are many books that you can get. We have one for crafts that you don't have to go out and buy all these things. This is a way that you can make them. Kwanzaa is not to be like Christmas, commercialized. It is to be able to use what you have, create what you need, and to walk in the spirit of things. Like you go with your ancestor, it's the spirit of observing the 7 principles, living them not only the 7 days, but throughout the year. And the Zawan days are the best gifts, are books for children. Zawan days are either cultural gifts or books that are given to children when they have made their commitment to their principles.
What about this one over here? What is it? Is that the same thing?
This is a book that shows you how to practice Kwanzaa in your home. And Kwanzaa can be done like this to be practiced in the home. And it gives you a very visual picture of the practice and a real definition of it. So for those, especially for children, it's very graphic so that they can explain it and they can see it, and it's fun to do.
Okay. And then
Then we have, this is one of the symbolisms that is also used, the bandera. And it is used for the people, the black in the middle, the blood of the people, the past, the red, and the future, the green, the land. And this was taken from Margaret Scarvey by Dr. Karanga.
I see.
And it is another symbolism that can be used during the holiday for decorating.
Okay. So having discussed Kwanzaa in these short discussions, what can you tell others out there to get involved as far as celebration of this, very briefly?
If you don't know how to do it and you want to participate, there will be a calendar created by the committee that you can go to community kinds of participations to see the symbolism practice, to see the different kinds of cultures done. If you want to take a start, just get a book, a little small book, start it, and start in your home and start planning for it now and just jump into it. And there is no wrong or right. There is some kind of process, but the most important thing is put that effort forward and get in the spirit of it.
Okay, I see you knocking down your head. Want to say something?
About Kwanzaa, I think it is important to celebrate Kwanzaa because it helps us to get to know about our culture and to help us connect to our African background. And it brings the family together, it brings the community together, and it makes us stronger people, more aware of our culture.
Is it like what, coming together and working among ourselves? And
right. When we come together, we can discuss certain principles, we can discuss how we're going to unite to become a more involved people economically, and how we can spread money into our community.
All right. Well, I think signaling us that time is about over now. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a very good discussion. Thank you for coming. Again, I said, can Africa survive without you? Can you survive without Africa? Until then, have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Peace.